May 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mayor Masabi, would you lead us this evening, please?
Okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Approval of the April 9th regular council meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Langford with a second from Councilperson Abbott to approve the April 9th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Do we have approval of the agenda?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilperson Langford with a second from Councilperson Doherty to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Acknowledge receipt of funds report.
Second.
Second. Motion by Councilperson Doherty with a second from Councilperson Miller to acknowledge receipt of funds report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. We have public comments. First, Caitlin Blissett.
Resident. Do you all need address? I can't remember. You don't need my address.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, yeah, you can find me. I just wanted to, again, put on record that I would really appreciate it if you all could do anything to expedite live streaming of these meetings. I know I've said that before, but I did go to the River Ridge meeting today, and I think that they approved some things to get that going well before the July 2025 deadline. So I would really appreciate anything that you all could do to get that going as well, so that I don't have to come record them and everyone can see what's going on here. I don't know if there's any collaboration that could be done with River Ridge since it's in the same building, or if it's totally different.
That I don't know.
Maybe Brian could assist on that. But that is requested. And then the other thing is EMS and attending the EMS committee meetings, or one so far, their first official one. They are really pushing for a county-based EMS solution, and I just think there's a big disconnect between council commissioners and EMS committee and what we're wanting to do. So I just want you all to take that option very seriously, because it is like a 2-year process to start getting that up and running. And if anything were to happen to our contract, which we know could very possibly happen at any time, it would be great for some of you all to attend those EMS committee meetings. In Floyd County, everybody's very involved. Commissioners, council members go to those meetings, and it'd be great to see some of you all there as well. There is one tomorrow at the 911 operation building at 1 o'clock. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Carmichael.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Vicki Carmichael. Our presiding judge, Whitfield, could not be here tonight, but I spoke with her and most of the other judges, and obviously Tom as well as our court administrator. Just wanted to put in front of you that we don't have a request on tonight, but we are going to be submitting a request for your next meeting that we be allowed to hire, or in conjunction with the sheriff, be allowed to hire. I've spoken with the sheriff, who told me that I can tell you that we've talked and we're still trying to decide how it would work best, but that we are going to be requesting a bailiff for each for courtroom super. So 10 bailiffs, because there are 10 courtrooms, and still in discussion about whether that should be with as court employees or as sheriff's department employees. I think we've had some internal discussions about what we think would be best. We're going to meet with the sheriff again about that when he gets back, probably later this week, And then, obviously, we would love to invite any of the council members who would like to have a conversation about that with us. We would like to have that conversation with you all as well. There've just been some recent incidents that we feel like this is the time to do this now. So,
Okay. Yeah, if you could keep us informed as to meetings or whatever, that'd be great.
Are all 10 courtrooms have hearings every day?
probably, well, not all day, every day. I would say each courtroom has probably at least one hearing each day, but maybe not, it kind of depends. Like Judge Carafa was in trial this week, and then the trial got postponed, and so he didn't have anything on his calendar today. He was there in the courtroom, obviously working on other things, but he didn't have hearings. So there are times when there aren't hearings, but there's still neighbors here.
Yeah, I'd like to be involved in those discussions because, I mean, I feel like I'd like to look at the calendar and see how often are 7 courtrooms in operation at once. And I mean operation as in like there's actually people in there, a hearing is going on.
Sure.
How often is it 8? How often is it 9? And if 80% of the time there's 8 courtrooms, then maybe we need 8. And in those 20% times that there's 9 or 10, do you pull from the jail or something? Just, I just like being involved in those conversations and
Sure.
kind of look at that calendar.
Okay.
We can get that.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll try to get some meetings set up in maybe the next couple of weeks before the next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, thank you. Next on the agenda is the health board appointment. And, we had talked earlier, and, I had contacted Dr. Harold Goff, who's a veterinarian locally, introduced him to, Doug Benfield, and they've met, and he is willing to serve. So that would be my recommendation.
That's your motion, I will second.
Motion by Councilperson Hollis, second from Councilperson Lanford, to appoint Dr. Harold Goff to the Health Board. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Troy Township Fire Protection. If you want to pull another chair up, that's fine, or.
Either way. Good evening, Keith Pulliam, Applegate Pfeiffer Pulliam, here on behalf of Tri-Township. We were here in September of 2022 when we started this process, and we acquired the ground for the fire district to construct its new fire headquarters. And we're here tonight before you to ask for your permission to approve the financing for the fire district to begin construction of its new fire headquarters. And so I believe that we tendered in advance a resolution that would be authorizing the issuance of the Tri-Township's financing for the fire district headquarters. And we issued maybe some, I believe we provided drawings, maybe a rendering. And if you have any questions, let me know.
I can tell you I sent this in an email.
Pardon?
I sent this in an email to you.
Right.
I don't think it did.
You want?
No, we have the resolution.
We do have it, okay. Do we have a number on that? 11.
Second.
Oh, wait. Resolution.
Well, I mean, take a look at it. You get that hard.
Well, they're looking at that, your total tax rate for Tri-Township is, I think, just over 30 cents this year.
But I can tell you the exact number.
I could too, but it'd take me, I'd have to run out to my truck.
It is, the overall tax rate is just about 30 cents per hundred.
On my tax bill, is just over 30 cents. Yeah, I'd have to run out to my truck to grab it. This is a 20-year bond, correct?
Yeah,
for the construction of your new fire station headquarters, will the payment fall within that 30-cent levy?
So this bond is intended to be tax rate neutral.
Neutral of what it is now?
Of what it is now. When it was first brought in, and we have Baker Tilly here with us if you wanted to ask more detail, but when we issued the first bond, set the rate at a level so that when this bond came in, it would replace that rate. And be neutral. Is that correct?
I'm the Adam with Baker Tilly. So the way that this.
I'm sorry, what's your name again?
I'm the Adam with Baker Tilly. So the way that this bond is structured, it's really planned at the time that the 2022 bonds were issued. So the 2023 tax rate is what we're trying to stay with. So if there was a little bit of a dip in 24 just because of the timing of when this project is actually coming to fruition, but it's going to be in line with the 2023 debt service tax rate, which was how it was presented to the county council back in, I think it was 2022, when you first came to the council. Yeah, so the difference between 23 to 24 is 0.012 of tax rate.
And it's at 0.0436 currently.
Yes.
What'd you say, Keith?
It's at 0.0436 currently.
And then
The bond rate?
The debt service.
The debt service, not the operating rate.
The operating rate is 22.9 cents. So if you'll recall, when we came before the council for the first bond request, it was to purchase a ladder. Unfortunately, the new trucks, heavy rescue or a ladder truck, takes years in advance to order, build, and receive. So we ordered that truck well in advance with the intention of building this headquarters in a timely fashion to be able to house that truck and some other trucks. It's kind of, thankfully, we have someone that's able to plan that out as well as he does and be prepared for what they need in the future.
Okay, Ron?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Pulliam, I'll refer to Tri-Township as simply Tri-Township. Who is going to own the ground, the land, the equipment? I should know this. I haven't been on the council that long, and I just simply haven't had the time to really dig into the structure of the fire protection district. I know geography really well, but so we have a new facility coming, assuming this is approved. We have a new fire district coming. Fire truck. The fire district is the same.
Yes.
The boundaries are the same.
Yes.
And we basically are involved here then with purchasing a truck, a ladder truck.
No, today we are before you asking for permission to finance the construction of the fire headquarters.
This is the headquarters, right there.
And what we did 2 years ago was to buy the land, and now we're here to build the building.
Will the land, the fire truck, equipment, et cetera, be all owned by the same Tri-Township Fire District?
Without getting overly technical, the answer to that is yes. The fire district in 2019 began operating its own municipal department. So it is a governmental entity. It owns the station. It owns all of its fire trucks. It has a capital asset ledger just like the county council and that sort of thing. It's all very public. And there's a little bit of nuance in that, and we have bond counsel here if he needs to talk about it. But what will happen is they will form a building corporation to own the station, and then the lease payments will fund the financing for the construction. And at the end of everything, it goes right back to the fire district.
The lease payment will pay the bond,
Yes.
and I'm assuming that then the any default or any problems with that financing arrangement would come, the land, et cetera, would all revert back to the original owner.
Yes, so the original owner is the fire district.
Okay,
And
that was where I was going with that.
And it's been the owner since, maybe early 2000s of this property in particular. And then the new property right next to it that they acquired in 22, they acquired to be able to build a new station next to the existing one because they need to continue to operate in the interim. But they will own the property before and after. And there is a little, that building corporation is owned by is formed by the fire district. So I don't want you to get hung up on that detail, but it's just.
I understand. So the tax levy will retire the debt for the infrastructure. And the current tax levy for that district is 30 cents?
The current combined tax levy for
Combined.
all of their tax levies, including their operating special fire fund, their cumulative fund, and the debt service is a total of 30 cents.
And what is it going to be?
It will really be approximately 30 cents.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you very much.
We'll stay neutral.
Yeah, if you say neutral or the rate will decrease as
And then
property values increase.
Any other questions? Anyone? Okay. What we have here is resolution number 2024-11, a resolution of the Clark County Council authorizing the issuance of Tri-Township Fire Protection District financing for new fire station and headquarters project.
move to pass.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilperson Grooms with a second from Councilperson Miller to approve resolution number 2024-11. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. This does require each one of our signatures, so I'll pass it down to our auditor if you would make sure everybody signs at the end of the evening. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Human Resource Director, Leanne?
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm the HR. If you have in front of you a written copy of the new employee handbook that we've been working on and we discussed during our joint workshop. I just kind of wanted to highlight that this falls in line with our plan of implementation, our attendance system, as well as the required trainings that we need to have. So, if approved, I have planned on basically distributing to all of our employees, some small man duties to really go over the differences and how the benefit, how our handbook works for them, aligns with the entity, and just some of the changes there as well. It's a reinvent the wheel, but I put some tires on it. And I really get to first, aligns with our Go Active official live date on our time attendance system.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Howe, did you compare this finished handbook with any other communities in Indiana besides Clark County?
I did not, because Hendricks County, a lot of them use WIS, and to be honest with you, I have cleaned up after. I've done different work, more detailed work, and while our PTO policy and holiday policy does align, as well as bereavement policy with other counties, the verbiage is specifically for Clark County and for our people. I listen to our people and their concerns, and I aligned with what some of us have discussed the county needs. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, do our holidays, bereavement, work hours, PTO, yes, it does align well with the Hendricks counties, the Du Bois counties, yes, sir. As far as the nuances, we are definitely part, and this speaks to us.
Sal, what do you think the most successful accomplishment you've had in introducing this employee handbook? What will Clark County benefit the most from with this handbook?
I'm glad you asked. First and foremost, we will benefit from a revamped and very modern bereavement policy. Our previous handbook defined a family as what families are very much, the definition of family has changed and evolved over since 2015, 2016. So we'll see some, for instance, step is no longer included. If your stepchild dies, she has the same amount of time as if it were your natural child, things like that. Our PTO policy is very different. Our PTO carryover has been capped with an option in our employees. I've heard from some of our employees where we get all this PTO, but we have no way to use it. We don't have time, we're doing our jobs. I've heard from the auditor's office and from a few of council, well, we're carrying this large PTO debt year to year, and it's accruing and it's accruing. Okay, well, let's give our employees, let's let them cash that option out, put some money in their pocket while the county isn't carrying the PTO bank. So you'll see those options in there. I think that will have the most profound impact.
What would you say your biggest challenge was in developing this and moving this along as you work with the employees and the administration of the county moving this forward? What was your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge was really trying to wrap my head around, Clark is very diverse. And under the departments that fall umbrella within this handbook, my biggest challenge was getting everyone on board. Hey, we're gonna do this kind of attendance system, writing that into our policy manual, and then really thinking of that and developing the best way to include all of our employees, all of our departments, while respecting the boundaries set for our officers.
Thank you.
And I really think that that's been overcome. This is a work that we don't have to amend year to year. This can carry us, I would like to see this carry us another 5 to 10 years. But
Thank you.
And Ron, I know you're new, Ron, but we've gone through, people want to accrue their PTO till they retire, and then it's a real financial burden. An office holder either has to go a month or two or more without an employee, or we have to do additional appropriations. So
Right.
having a cap on it, as far as I'm concerned, financially for the council, I think it's gonna really help us.
Do you agree that this will probably relieve some of the additional appropriations that we're doing because of that?
I mean, it's pretty hard not to have some kind of additional appropriation when a long-term employee leaves.
Right.
You've got to have at least 2 weeks maybe of a dual employee or some sort of thing, and they always do have some
it's
payout
more
coming when they
manageable
leave.
and manageable now.
Yes, yeah, that's a good word, more manageable with a cap on it.
Thank you.
One other change that I did make, and it was a big deal to me. PTO time is not accrued during a notice period. And our PTO time accrues on a weekly basis, rather than getting to January and having this big dump. Well, that's all well and good, but what if someone gives you their notice December 21st? That's and that office is going to be handicapped. So, by week, pay periods change, they can fluctuate, weeks of the year do not, there's always.
The commissioners have had the opportunity to review this. Are you all satisfied with what we've done here?
The commissioners have not voted on this yet,
We
correct?
would have to
It's-
go first and we'll do it ours.
Yes, they'll vote on it following our vote.
Scott, is there any type of authority that requires the council to even vote on this?
Yeah, I don't have a case before me, there's no such case law.
Case law, that's what I was thinking.
When it comes to personal policy and handbooks, it has to be approved by both the executive and trustee bodies.
I was gonna say, I don't see a statute that, I
No,
don't see some
it's-
case law that kind of.
It's well settled case law, it has to be approved by both bodies.
Leanne, thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
And thanks for all your work on this, Leanne.
Oh, thank you.
I think this is gonna clean up some things
I
that
do too.
got,
I do too.
taken advantage of, a few things. I'll make a motion to adopt the revised employee handbook.
I still have a question if you.
Okay, let me get a second and then I'll ask.
I'll second.
Oh, okay, I thought we was all asking questions.
Miller, okay. I have a motion from Councilperson Lanford with a second from Councilperson Miller to approve, I guess, the Clark County handbook as presented this evening. Any questions?
Yeah, this, help me with this. Back in 2015, I had a father dying, and I was working for the city of Jeff, and I think I was one of the first that took it there. The 12-week you take off without pay, and you had to pay your insurance, but do we have anything like that when?
Yes,
you
sir,
had-
because we do have more than 50 employees, we're an FMLA
Yeah.
Yeah.
organization. The FMLA has not changed since 1983. That's of course included in our handbook.
Right. I took off 11 weeks, and of course I had no paycheck, but it was
Yeah,
done.
that's all covered in here.
We
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
The FMLA is,
Thank you.
yes. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
And it's very comprehensive, I believe.
Good deal.
Which love?
Our state legislators passed legislation this year for the first time, all 92 Indiana counties, when it comes to apartments in your county that have more than 4 units, which Clark County has a ton of them, and they're building more. We have to now use what's called a Form 11A, which is something totally different than what the individual gets. And on that Form 11A, we have to come up with 3 approaches to value. One is the income approach, one is the sales approach, and one is the cost approach. That's not part of our original reassessment contract. That was added on to us by the legislators. The bill that we.
Unfunded, of course.
Do what?
Unfunded, of course.
Yes. Our bill for that this year, with the amount of apartments that we had that are 5 or more units, came to $30,500. I don't have that in my budget. And all of my contracts are in the reassessment fund. Don't have any in the general fund. The next year, moving forward, it may be more, or it may be close to the same, since they've already got some of this data calculated with the ones that they've already worked on. But I guess my question to you is, running $30,500 short, because this was imposed to us, how do I pay for it?
Do an additional appropriation out of 1224. The reassessment fund. You got enough surplus in there that it can handle that appropriation?
I think so.
For sure.
And then, do I wait till, say, the last meeting of the year to do that, or do I just go ahead and do it when I get the bill?
Are you gonna get any more before the end of the year?
Not for this, no.
Okay, well then, you can do it now
Okay.
for the next meeting.
Okay.
And then include that in your budget proposal for 25,
Yeah, moving forward.
so we don't have to do additional.
Then the other thing is the money that you all gave me for appraisals, or when you just, I'm just gonna say, throw a dart on the wall and said 30,000. I think we're gonna come in under that, so I'm glad y'all gave me that.
Have you used it to help your arguments?
I will be, right now I have 6 residential appeals at the state level. I have 2 condominiums at the state level and 4 storage facilities at the state level. none of them are in a TIF area, so it's us and their bill.
Okay,
So we're gonna, right now it's about $8,000.
all right. Thanks, Butch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Butch.
Thanks.
Clark County Commissioners?
Yes, I'm stepping in tonight for Mr. Lover. Scott Lewis, County Attorney. So I think we have maybe 2 or 3 different things here that we're going to talk about tonight. The first item are the introduction of 2 separate ordinances related to the landfill slurry wall / barrier wall project. So we've done this before. I think we were here last fall for landfill bond and a refunding of old landfill bonds. So this is the second part to complete the financing of the current project that's been underway pursuant to our permit with both IDEM and EPA. So the barrier wall / slurry wall it's multiple components. It also includes leachate piping component. It includes wetland mitigation fees, soil borrow mitigation, wetland fees, sedimentation basins, stream relocation, stream lining, and so forth. So when you say the barrier wall project, there's actually multiple components. So what we're here tonight is the timing when we did the first bond and / refunding last fall. This is the second part for the timing to complete the project for this calendar year. So the proposed bond ordinance is $3.2 million. It's a revenue bond, so as you know with the landfill, the payments do not come from tax money. It's from the revenue that the landfill brings in. So procedurally, to start the process for us to close by July, we introduced the bond ordinance, and we also introduced the appropriation ordinance. So technically, it's 2 different ordinances, but you're not voting to adopt or pass the ordinances. You're assigning individual ordinance numbers and voting to introduce it for the record. Then we will come back next month at your June meeting to have the council formally adopt and pass each of those ordinances. And in between, as you know, with bond issues, there's different procedures. The commissioners will do a public hearing and so forth in that bond process. So once again, this is a project that's required under our current permit with both the EPA and IDEM to allow the landfill to continue its existence, to expand the capacity of the landfill, and also to maintain the leachate. That's a slurry wall project to keep the leachate from escaping the landfill area. So we would appreciate your introduction tonight to make sure that we move forward with the complete financing of this project.
So it doesn't require any real action, it's just gonna be a part of the minutes.
That you're introducing and assigning ordinance numbers, separate ordinance numbers to each of the bond ordinance and to the appropriation ordinance.
So is that done in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I mean, technically, they say it doesn't necessarily have to be a motion, but we like to be pretty formal about that. That you have a motion assigning ordinance number and introducing for the record.
Do you have ordinance number, Lindsay?
It's 11, or 2024.
Say that again.
2024-11 and 12. And we'll go ahead and put the bond ordinance as 2024-11.
Yep.
And the appropriation.
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2024-11, the landfill bond ordinance, and ordinance 2024-12, the appropriation ordinance for the landfill bond.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Langford with a second from Councilperson Miller to introduce ordinance 2024-11, a landfill bond ordinance, and ordinance 2024-12, an additional appropriation ordinance. Any further discussion?
I'm not totally familiar with this, so I'm gonna have to.
That's fine.
Through the process that we've been with this, has there been anywhere along the way that the public has had input in passing of this or introducing this or bringing this forward?
Not to my knowledge.
Well,
I mean, we have,
I think that's the purpose of tonight.
yeah, this is the introduction, and then obviously additional appropriations are advertised for a public hearing. So then you have a public hearing at your June meeting to pass the appropriation ordinance. This Thursday, May 23rd, the commissioners have a public hearing under the IRS tax code for the bonds,
Yes.
called a TEFRA hearing. So then we do a public hearing called the TEFRA hearing to move forward. So there are public hearings as part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah,
I couldn't figure out where that fit in.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just tonight, it's the introduction, but you will have a public hearing for your additional appropriation approval, commissioners do a TEFRA hearing.
Scott, can I have this? Well, there'll be a time we'll see this. When do we get to see this, these two resolutions?
We've got
They're
them.
there before you. They're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those emails,
They were, yeah, we got them.
I read it this morning.
You did what now?
I read it this morning. It's in our email.
It came,
Where
it was
we-
came part of the email system.
Well, I didn't get the email. See, that's some things that we mess up on, but I wanna make sure we see them. You say you read yours this morning?
Yeah, it was in the email, it was in the packet with all of our agenda and everything.
Yeah, long
We
one.
can pick up a copy at the commissioner's office probably.
Or the auditor's office.
I can
Yeah,
email it to
I
you.
mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you, my emails, there's two emails, which one are you using?
I think I'm sending it to both.
You are, well, that's a good idea, good
Yeah.
idea, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, I hadn't seen it.
Scott, since we're kind of out of sequence on our meetings, you'll not have 30 days before our next council meeting, will that be okay?
yeah, that's fine. I mean, your next meeting, you haven't had a chance your June meeting, have you?
No.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, obviously, if you change that, let us know, because there has to be advertised for your additional appropriation. Public hearing.
This guy-
As long as your June is on the same schedule.
Have Baker Tilly email the council or the auditor's office or commissioner's office, the finances they used to come up with the revenue to debt service coverage ratios and things like that, that I'm sure is part of the parity formula for all the bonds.
Yeah, obviously, the financial advisor, before you even initiate a bond, they have to do their fiscal
Right.
analysis
Yeah.
to make sure there's enough revenue.
Yeah, that wasn't included in the board packet, so I'd be interested to look at the landfill's revenue projections and just see what this does to that coverage ratio.
Yes, okay.
What was the rate? Was there,
It hasn't been priced yet.
I'm sorry?
It hasn't been priced yet. The ordinance says that it cannot exceed 7%. But the bond hasn't been put out on market yet to be priced by financial institutions. But the bond document says it 7% max, but
Thank you.
we'll see what it's priced at.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the introduction as stated, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, yes, and next, these are additional appropriations for two prior pledges for the ARP money. Did you know that the commissioners make the pledge, and then the county council appropriates the money for those ARP pledges? And sometimes I believe you may, I'm not sure, but I think you may have appropriated these last year, and then, of course, appropriations die by the year, and now the projects are ready to be funded. So the first additional appropriations for the Henryville Membership Sanitation Corp. It's a nonprofit sewer corporation up in the Henryville area. This pledge was for what they call their Memphis Lift Station and Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project. Obviously, these nonprofit sewer companies out in the rural area have been outdated sewer lines and sewer equipment, so this will greatly enhance their sewer system. So this pledge needs an additional appropriation of $1 million, and I'll just go ahead and talk about the second one. The second one also was a pledge to the Borden-Sellersburg wastewater project. So Borden and Sellersburg are teaming together on a joint project to upgrade their systems, and this particular pledge was for $327,565. So both of those projects are now ready, where they're incurring the expenses and they're ready to be reimbursed from the ARP money for both of these projects. So you can either do those separately, or I believe you can do those in one motion if that's your pleasure.
You ask a question now, or you want?
If you have-
Go ahead, Dave. Well, I was gonna say, what's in that ARP money, what's left?
Like the balance of the fund?
Yes, ma'am. Scott, didn't we have a certain time to spend that?
Well, yeah, so basically under the current law, of course, the Congress has amended this several times since it was first implemented. So first of all, you have to pledge your money by the end of December 31st of this calendar year, 2024. and then the money has to be spent in full by December 31st of 2026. Subject to congressional amendments. Congress has already amended different things regarding the ARP, but that's where we stand right now. So,
It looks like there's just over 17 million in there.
so some of those are pledged and we haven't spent. Now, the other thing too, not to delve in the weeds, but also under the ARP rules, is that the local governments can, if they've received more than $10 million in the ARP money, which we have, you can actually claim up to $10 million for your own internal government purposes. So we have a cushion there where we haven't pledged all the money yet because we're trying to have that cushion for internal purposes for our own government need, because you just don't know what's going to show up. We haven't pledged 100% of the money yet. We're still trying to balance that just to see if there's any substantial need that we may have to use internally for our government expenses. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, what are the limits and the parameters of how this ARP money can be used to retire debt?
It cannot be used to retire debt. No. So the U.S. Treasury Department, this is federal money, so the U.S. Treasury Department has a document that's been amended several times. The last time I saw it's 200 and some pages of the rules about the permissible things that can be spent for, but it has specific exclusions. You can't use it for retirement or pension benefits. You cannot use it to pay debt. And there's a couple of other exclusions there. So those are specific prohibitions on the money.
No use of using it for life-saving equipment, emergency relief, none of that?
It could, because some of it's in response to COVID and health emergency, some could be used internally. So, but you can't use it if it's going to be used to pay debt, pension, retirement. I don't have the full, it's almost a 300-page document, and it's been amended several times, yeah. So,
I'm just curious about the emergency clause in there for a community that has a dire emergency, financial emergency.
well, there's four broad categories. I mean, not necessarily emergency. It can be used for health and so forth, for health expenditures.
Disaster.
I mean, it specifically doesn't say disaster. I mean, it's very narrow.
Okay. It's too deep a discussion for this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to email you the document if you want to kind of go through it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's almost 300 pages.
I could read it by
Yeah.
20. 30, 20.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for the additional appropriation out of $89.50 for the Henryville membership sanitation and the Borden Silver Group water.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Doherty with a second from Councilperson Miller to approve the additional appropriations as requested out of Fund 8950 in the amount of $1,327,565. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
And I think I have one last thing. Technically, this is for the surveyor's office, but the request is from the Enhanced GIS Access Services Fund, which is kind of comes under the control of the commissioners. So it's an additional appropriation request of $600 for computer software / hardware. This is for the pictometry. So some of you are familiar with the GIS that we have. And in a couple of years, they do, I think it's AWU is the company that is contracted, and actually all the different cities and counties, there's a joint interlocal agreement where they contribute portions of the funds for the pictometry that is uploaded to the Elevate GIS system. And the company that does the pictometry traditionally has provided the backup copies in old-fashioned CD discs, which computers don't use those anymore. So there's a need, a request from the surveyor for his office to have this computer software, hardware equipment, which is $600 to now have the backup pictometry on an external hard drive unit, rather than on the old-fashioned discs that can't even be used anymore. So this is just an upgrade of technology to make sure if there's a problem with the Elevate GIS system that we have the pictometry backed up in a modern external hard drive.
Motion to approve $600 additional appropriation on 4964.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Ledford with a second from Councilperson Bissing to approve the additional appropriation of $600 in Fund 4964.
Do we have a question from the audience?
Yeah, I have, every 2 years, I get the external hard drive for the flyover for pictometry. There is no disk. So I get those, and anytime like 911 or somebody wants to borrow it, it's stored in my office and it's locked up. So I have multiple hard drives from year after year after year that the flyovers were.
Okay.
Well, the way it was articulated to me from the survey, they called it discs.
Have
Yeah.
a surveyor talk to Butch before you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and zoning, Connie Sellers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here as president of planning and zoning. I don't know how many of you've known, but we lost our planning and zoning director design. And, we've done multiple searches and put out, you know, we cannot find anyone that has planning and zoning experience that has applied. So we would like to.
For the pay that is currently set at.
Yes, for the pay that it is currently set at. So we would like to, have a zone between 65 and 75,000 for the director's job. And the reason I'm saying that is because when Ms. Franklin left several years ago, we went through this again, and we would hire someone, and then where they were working would give them more money. That happened to us 3 times, and the last one, the gentleman that was going to work us up to 20,000. We could not compete with that. So we have someone who's interested. If we could up the pay between 65 and 75,000, the 29,196 and 91 cents difference will come out of the non-reverting fund.
This is a fee fund that where people, when they submit a plat, they pay a fee and it goes into this non-reverting fund. This is not the county's general tax fund.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve the salary ordinance for executive director of $29,196.91 to be paid out of the planning and zoning fees fund.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Langford with a second from Councilperson Grooms to approve a salary ordinance. Miller, sorry. To approve a salary ordinance for an executive director of planning and zoning in the amount of $29,196.91. Any further questions, discussion?
Was it 26 or 29?
It's 29. Right now, 8,000 is coming out of that, so a little over 16,000 that we're actually taking out. 8,000 was already coming out of the non-reverting.
Anything else?
Okay, I have it. So you're saying it's 29,000, 196.91 out of 49.57?
Well, this is a salary ordinance, not, are you gonna do an additional appropriation?
Yeah, I talked about that, we need to do it, but right now we think we have enough because we've not had a director. So, but yes, we are going to do an additional appropriation.
Okay, Steve? Ready for the question then? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Connie, can you, when you submit your 25 budget for the planning and zoning, are you planning on submitting it all out of the fee fund?
The entire budget out of that,
Just the 29.
or just the 20? Okay.
Yes, 40, let me see, I've got it on my phone. $48,803.09 comes from the general fund.
And that's the way it is currently. Right. So you're not changing that.
Right, we're not changing that.
Just changing the fees. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie.
Cobb County Courts. Bob?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tom Lau, Court Administrator. Have a few different things on. First is a request for an additional appropriation from County General for the Superior Court 5 budget in an amount of $10,000 for interpreter services. At the beginning of the year, we had $5,000 that was budgeted for Superior Court 5. As of the end of April, we had $17 remaining in that, and we're holding a number of invoices for payment, waiting for an additional appropriation. In addition, the other courts have also significantly expended funds in their interpreter budget. We're currently working on a state grant that would most likely be specifically for the broader circuit court budget. As you're aware, as we go through budget process as of 2025, we won't have 3 separate budgets. They'll all be combined into one. This will be a little bit easier, I think, moving forward.
Starting here?
Pardon? Next year.
25?
January, yep. So we'll have circuits 1 through 6 as of January 1. Right now, because 5 and 6 are both Superior Courts, they have their own separate budgets. But Superior 5 has gone through $5,000 in the first 4 months. We think that the $10,000 will cover, hopefully, the remainder of the year for them. I believe the interpreter grant that we're applying for would go into effect with the state fiscal year rather than our fiscal year, so we're anticipating, hoping that we'll get that money as of July 1st. And that would be used to augment the circuit court interpreter service because we are we had 17,000 appropriated for the circuit courts, and we have spent 13,000 for interpreter services. As you can imagine, with the influx of immigration folks, that has gone up and up each year. We're looking for ways that we can perhaps get additional funds from the state. But past history shows we haven't got more than about 10% for that. So, that's the reason for that. And I don't know if you want to take these one at a time. Keep rolling.
Good, keep
Okay.
going.
All right. Next is the OVWI Court 10K grant. You might recall from the April meeting, there was some questions about some things didn't get advertised. We transferred some things around to try to cover those. This additional appropriation from those grant funds helps get us back into compliance with our previous grant budget and fixing those issues from the April meeting. Again, this one is not county general money. This is grant money. It's for treatment intervention in the amount of $3,600. CCATS is the next one. That's our drug court. This is a project income additional appropriation, $5,000 for drug testing, $5,000 for supplies. The money is there from the project income, so this is, again, not county general funds. It's funds actually derived from participants in the program. And then last, we have a number from the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, and we have $37.50 for food. I can explain that one just a little bit. $600 for supplies, $10,650 for travel. Court probation program, $7,500. Promotions, $1,000. Education and prevention, $27,000. And treatment intervention, $12,000. Again, these are grant funds. This is a grant that we get from the Department of Corrections. And it was actually put at one, I know there's always concerns about food. It was actually put in the grant application. The judicial the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, we're required to have certain folks on a board, and we're required to have so many meetings a year. What we found is when lunch is provided, people show up. When they don't, we sometimes don't have enough to conduct business. And so they actually put it in the grant, and DOC approved it. And that's the reasoning behind that. So I just wanted to explain that just a little bit.
Okay, thank you. There's one more, the reduction.
I think that might be more for me. There is a grant with Floyd County, for the vet court 10K. At the April meeting, the intention was to transfer appropriations, and instead the appropriations were appropriated in the wrong spot, so we had a duplicate basically. So that reduction is just fixing the error from April.
That's,
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that one on the agenda and didn't know, but yeah, that's fine.
I do have a question on
Yes.
on the interpreter. Is that a part-time position, I guess, paid hourly, or is that specifically?
It's an independent contractor.
Okay.
Right now, who is certified by the Indiana Supreme Court as a certified court interpreter. Now, it's not just one, she does have several people, but it's a service that we utilize.
And on that grant that you all applied for, is there an award amount, a specific amount for that, or?
It's based on how many requests they get. We don't have the total.
Okay.
They haven't told us like how much they have to divvy out, and we won't know exactly how many people are gonna ask for what. In the past, we've gotten about 10,000. Obviously,
Okay.
if we get more than that, great. And this really just covers Spanish interpreters.
Right.
When we have other types of languages that we need to cover, there is a language line that the Supreme Court has put together as a statewide service. It's not really designed for everyday, all day kind of thing. It's, you know, we've had, trying to think of we've had some Sudanese who required a specific type of Arabic, and we've used that language line help for that. But it's usually for things that are a little more exotic than what we deal with on an everyday basis.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve additional appropriation out of 1,000 for interpreter services, $10,000. OVWI court, 10,000, additional appropriation out of 8230, treatment intervention for $3,600, CADS project income, 2, additional appropriation out of 1128, drug testing for 5,000, and 1128, supplies for 5,000. And also approve the reduction of appropriation out of 8235 contract services in the amount of $1,896.80. We also have JDAI number 2, additional appropriation out of 9157 for food for $3,750. All these are out of 9157. Supplies for 600, travel for 10,650, court probation programs for 7,500, promotions for 1,000, education prevention 27,000, treatment intervention 12,000.
Second.
Motion by Councilperson Miller with a second from Councilperson Bissing to approve the additional appropriations as requested in the general fund, 8230, 1128, and 9157, as well as the reduction in 8235. Any further discussion?
What is JDAI? I think I know.
It's the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes.
How much does it cost to use that interpreter hotline?
You talking about language line?
Yes.
That's provided by the Supreme Court. It's generally reserved for things that we can't find locally, or if we have an emergency, we don't have an interpreter that we can use.
But
It's funded through the state, funded through the Indiana Supreme Court, Support Services. Yeah.
Clark County Health Department, Doug Benfield.
Good evening, Doug Benfield, Clark County Health Department. We're asking for a transfer this evening in Fund 8212 from its equipment in the amount of $2,000 to supplies in the amount, it's the same being $2,000.
Motion to approve transfer of 8212.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilperson Lanford and a second from Councilperson Abbott to approve the transfer in 8212 of $2,000 from equipment to supplies. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Doug,
you.
next time you have something like this, just call a council member so you don't
Yeah, simple
spend your
transfer,
evening away
you
from
don't
your
have to
family
sit here for that.
Well, I do appreciate that.
equipment to supplies transfer.
I appreciate that.
Don't miss evening time with your family.
Hey Doug, I got a question now. When, you know, I have a place down in Bethlehem. When do they spray the county out spraying the
We just got our machine calibrated and ready to go. It should be pretty soon. We have to get it licensed every year.
Okay.
Should be soon, yeah.
People were asking, and I said, well, next time I see them, I'll ask.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Clark County Auditor, Danny Elst.
Yeah, a couple things for you tonight. First one is a additional appropriation out of Fund 1181, which is our auditor endorsement fund. That's for $39,600. That's for the Schneider, which does our GIS mapping. If you recall back last year, we had moved that out of county general. It's been in county general forever, and we moved it out of county general basically to give some more money there for when y'all did the raises last year. But it just never got on the appropriation.
Yeah, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve additional appropriation of $39,600 out of 1181 for contract services.
Second.
That was Steve. Motion by Councilperson Lanford with second from Councilperson Doherty to approve the additional appropriation in 1181 in the amount of $39,600. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Next thing I got is a temporary salary ordinance for the chief deputy. Of course, as you all know, Lindsay's now our chief deputy. And we've got to, for her money and also to pay out the previous auditor her time, so this is temporary. And we have the money's there, so.
All right, motion to approve salary ordinance, chief deputy auditor, temporary for 42/17/16. Do we want to go ahead and do this one below it as well?
Yeah.
And also approve the salary ordinance for chief deputy auditor, temporary for $449.69.
I'll second with a question. Do you have a date on when this will expire or when it's paid out for, so that this can have an expiration date?
It should be paid, everything for the previous should be paid out the next payroll, which, sorry guys.
You're from
Take your time.
June 5th.
It will be paid out May 29th.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Any other old business? New business? Budget email discussion. Is that you, Lindsay?
Brian and I talked about this. We need to send out the budget email soon. And if there's any specific language regarding raises you would like me to add in there, or budgets in general. I really wanted to hear your all's opinions on that, as well as we were talking about a deadline to have them turned in. So, any thoughts on?
What's the deadline always been?
Generally June 1st, but because we pushed this meeting back a week, I'd say June 15th would be good for a deadline to the auditor's office. And that gives you.
The 14th's a Friday.
Okay, so the 14th, June 14th. And then that gives the auditor's office about 2 months to compile the budget, salary ordinance, budget binders, because we generally
It's a lot of work, yeah.
it's a lot of work. We generally start our budget workshops mid-August, right? So that gives the auditor's office 2 months to do what they need to do with all those budget submissions.
Also, too, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I know we kind of had it set up with Danny and the previous deputy auditor to come in and help. So anything we can do, if you need help setting up the budget books, going over 144s, do not hesitate to reach out. We've done it in the
Putting
past.
in
when we help.
binders, we
Yeah.
can help.
I am sure
Yeah.
I will take you up on
If
that.
you do that, please.
Okay, so what direction do we want to give the department heads for raise requests for in their 25 budget?
It's easiest if there's no raises put in to work for us.
It's easiest if we
For us.
don't give raises. But if we do end up getting raises, then it's harder because it then makes all the department heads go back and redo all their 144s.
That's
I think, yeah, because we have done that. We've had to
And
go
it
back and
gets
include it.
super-
We're doing it twice. So if we
If we think we're going to give raises in 25,
build them in.
it's best to get them put in on the front end, so you don't double all the 144 submissions and then change every single line item salary.
So what's the number at?
So how are we gonna?
Yeah, how are we gonna
well,
cover that?
Well, how do we do that if we're not doing it across the line,
Right.
like we haven't done for the last 3 years? We haven't done across the board.
Yeah, mostly, yeah, except for 1 or 2 departments. Oh, you mean,
We give them a number.
oh yeah, no, that could still be the case. I'm not saying a raise of everybody's individual salary, I'm saying a raise for your payroll services budget. So do we want to put out a specific percentage, 2, 3, 4, whatever, increase your salary payroll services line item by this percentage in your 25 budget over 24?
Without knowing numbers, how can we?
You know,
Can you come up with a 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 4 columns on the total?
I could, I don't know if I can do that right this second,
No, has it ever, okay, let me ask it another way. Has it ever been done?
but I used to, do it all the time. I just wasn't prepared for that question right this second.
No, I don't think we've ever done it that way.
No.
Ask the department heads to,
More than one?
right, for
Right.
more than one percentage.
No.
I don't recall doing it that
Or a
way.
range, or have you ever, okay, I was just curious whether you ever worked with a range or just went in with a set number. And I know you don't have all the numbers.
Inflation's running around 3% right now.
I'm sorry?
Inflation's running around 3% right now. I think that's probably a good number to shoot at right now. We made significant changes in our payroll budget in 24, the current year we're in right now, with additional prosecutor, and then not only additional prosecutor, but additional more significant raises in the prosecutor's office. I don't know if you were here at the time, but they had like 3 vacant prosecutor positions and had been posted for months and months because it was still like 65,000. You just couldn't hire attorneys at that. So we had to make a significant jump in our prosecutor salaries this year. We made We made a pretty decent jump in highway operators in the last 12 to 18 months. The sheriff's office had a decent raise because of the pressure of we were losing them to nearby departments. So I wouldn't mind hitting brakes a little bit
And we also had a request tonight for 10 new employees.
10 new employees in the courts bailiffs, that's gonna be a significant number. So if we wanna, honestly, asking for 0% raises, that's fine and all, but it always ends up being something a little bit, and then we have to go back and change all those budgets and change all those 144s, it gets pretty annoying. I'd rather come up with a number, whatever this council thinks. We're not gonna be stuck to it. This isn't adopted until October. We can make changes, but at least something to maybe keep from having to make so many changes in September before adoption. So whatever this council thinks, and like I said, inflation's running around 3.5 or so right now. So whatever this council thinks. And like I said, this is not to be voted on as in, this is just a guide for what we're looking for from the department heads and their 2025 requested.
Aren't most of the prosecutor salaries paid by the state?
No, only one, two.
Just two?
The prosecutor and chief deputy prosecutor.
Just the two?
Just the two. We get to pay all the rest. Do you have an opinion on the percentage?
I'm gonna do something out where we can't keep it, because these employees always asking me, you gonna get a raise this year? Well, we heard 3%, whatever, 3%. I don't know, we just threw that out there. Some of these people don't like it, just throwing it out there.
Well, I don't think it's
Just a guideline.
We're just asking for a guideline for department heads for their budget submission.
Something we need to be able to tell them.
I will say, I normally send out the budget email, and in the past, we've said include no raises, and I think to some department heads, that seemed like harsh, like they automatically think there's gonna be no raises.
And how many actually submit with 0%?
Yeah,
none of them.
None of them do.
Yeah.
Some of them, so it's not going to show them an actual percentage.
Yeah.
Some of them might actually.
Or, I mean, I can take out that line.
3 and 3.5.
I'd say,
What do you say,
I
running right now?
go with 4, and then we can,
Yeah.
if we have to.
Say 4 is a solid number.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, he's already thanking us.
You have to give everybody guidance.
4% is a guideline.
Yeah.
Department heads and
You know how this world is.
the 25 budget.
Anything else in that, Lindsay, that you want us to?
That, I mean, that's all. If you want me to type out the email and run it by any of you before I send it, I can.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
You don't need to write by me. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's it?
I have a comment. This is a tremendous way. It's called the Blue Mind Health System that we're a part of. It's a tremendous way to help save the county money.
I think it's pretty well used, from what I've heard.
Good response.
So it's pretty impressive.
And we had no amendments. Any reports and comments? Any other public comments? Anybody else have any comments this evening? Yes.
I know she's not here, but the commissioners made an excellent hire when they hired Leanne. She has done a tremendous job.
I hear that all the time.
Me too.
Thank you.
Even compared to the previous person here was doing a good job, and she has really done a great job. And I'm glad to see Lindsay sitting there. I hired Lindsay when I was auditor, and she deserves that job because she is sharp.
Thank you.
And she's not political, thank goodness.
Has to say that.
Yes, Butch.
Just to give you a heads up, in late January, early February, that's when the next flyover is gonna be for the pictometry. and they're going from a 3-inch resolution to a 1-inch. So what that means is the external hard drive that currently has been used is 1 terabyte, and we're gonna have to go to a 2 terabyte. They always provide me with the external hard drive. I then take out of my budget $150 to purchase another external hard drive so that we have one as a backup. And when David Blankenbaker was here as a surveyor, he borrowed it, 911 borrowed it, but they always borrowed the copy, and they would sign it out and sign it back in. So I know that was talked about earlier, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up on that.
Our new surveyor may not know that.
He
so
probably
I think-
don't,
I think
yeah.
that's, but if you don't mind passing that on to him, I'd appreciate it.
Yes,
Are the budget workshops open to the public?
yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I guess we wanna welcome,
Yes,
was it here?
Yes.
thank you, welcome,
Welcome.
thank you, looking forward to working with you. Attorney comments,
No.
auditor comments?
Just
We got
ditto
some-
what you all said about Lindsay welcoming Hurst and did a great job for us. I put a letter on your all's
Yes.
desk there by the county council. They have their annual meeting that you can go to. I believe that could be paid out of training funds here, so something to think about, and a couple signatures for the minutes and resolution. That's all I got.
Any other council comments?
Yeah, I got 3 quick things. We always vote to acknowledge we received the fund
I know.
report. That annoys me. Max, if you have a free minute in the next 6 months, I don't care, but at some point, look and see if a vote to is required to acknowledge we have received.
What we do is not exactly like, codified or.
Right, so just give us a legal opinion sometime in the next few months. I would love to cut that out of our time.
Sure.
Number 2, when I asked the auditor's office to put together that miscellaneous revenue list of all the miscellaneous revenue items that is included in 1782 notice that usually Jackie puts together with usually input from the department heads, like in looking at past miscellaneous revenue. So our projected revenue on this spreadsheet totals 15.2 million. But if you look at our 1782 notice, our budget order from the DLGF, it's 14.2 million. If you look at this, the 12-line statement that comes from the budget order. When you get a chance, Lindsay, no hurry at all. Look and see where there would be a discrepancy from the 14.2 miscellaneous revenue going into county general from the budget order, and then this 15.2 million spreadsheet that the auditor's office produced to track miscellaneous revenue in county general quarterly.
Okay.
No hurry on that.
Okay.
And number 3, on the master appropriation spreadsheet, take a look at 1170, the public safety LOIT. It's got a very large surplus fund balance in there, and I think that might be because the income projected in that public safety LOIT, which is local optional income tax, is 9.6 million. That seems high.
Okay.
That seems really high. So when you get a chance, it's on the DLGF website if you go to the county specific
Yeah,
and pull off what our certified shares, what's our 24 revenue. I don't think it's 9.6. It'd be great if it was, but I don't think so.
okay. I can look that up.
No hurry.
Okay.
Anybody else? I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.